But I think it's also, once you become aware of this inherited bias towards the reductive and the material, you can counter it. I mean, I think one of the great moments for me, if we can move briefly from Tolkien to Lewis, one of the great moments for me in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is my favourite of the chronicles, there's this occasion when it's almost like a meeting of two worldviews. Eustace, and this is, I mean, that says Eustace after he's been dragoned and undragoned, but he's still got a bit of that old mindset. Eustace in the stories represents this reductivism, but he's like a reductive guy suddenly put into a magical world. So there's a point where he meets this living, godlike being who is in fact a star. He's a celestial heavenly body, but he's in the mode of a human being at the moment before he rises again and joins the great dance, Corioc, I think it's called. Anyway, so he's introduced. Eustace is introduced to him as a star, and Eustace suddenly falls back into modernist mode, and he says, "Oh, in our world, a star is merely a ball of flaming gas exploding forever into the cold vacuity of space." And the star replies to him, he says to him, absolutely brilliant, genius. He says, "Even in your world, Eustace, that's not what a star is. It's only what a star is made of." Now, that distinction between, if you like, the essence of being and the mere material composition is magical. So I think one of the ways of helping to be undisenchanted or to re-enchant the world is to bear that in mind and to be very, very wary of what Lewis called nothing buttery. So nothing buttery is you say, "Oh, you're nothing but a collection of chemicals. This tree is nothing but a bunch of mindless cells," or whatever it is, that reductive thing. You are chemicals and that's what you're made of, but it's not what you are. So you could go for a walk and consider the possibility that the tree is as much a meant living conscious being spoken into being by the same God who spoke you into being. And he means something by you, but he also means something by the tree. Why not listen to what he's telling you through the tree? He may be telling you something, but in fact, he's telling you vital things through the tree. If you think about it, when we're trying to discuss almost anything about the complex business of being human, we can't avoid using metaphors about trees. We talk about root and branch. We talk about getting to the roots of a problem. That's where the word radical comes from. We talk about branching out. We talk about branching thoughts. We can't consider either human thought or even the structure of a sentence without using the metaphor of a tree. Tree is an essential means whereby we think. Now, if a tree was just a bunch of accidental agglomeration of stuff through evolution, it wouldn't have any meaning. It wouldn't be suggestive of anything. But actually, everything is suggestive of something. Now, and if no, they're not. So, I mean, obviously, not all your listeners and viewers will be Christian, and that's obviously first off for me to say. But if you happen to take the Christian view seriously, then another thing occurs to you, which is that you're inside this great poem that's being spoken by the Logos. We might all agree on that. There's lots of faiths that would understand that. But what if, while you're inside the poem, the poet actually shows up and starts walking through the poem with you and going, "Hey, see what I did there?" And shows you a few of the highlights. So, Jesus stands there and he says, "Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it bears no fruit. But if it dies, it yields a rich harvest." Thus showing you that the meaning of letting go in order to receive, the very meaning of death and resurrection itself is all there happening in your garden all the time. Every time you plant something, you see it grow. The entire turning point of the cosmos is bodied forth before you in a very helpful image. And it's not surprising that we have this, and for the fact that day follows night or spring follows winter. It makes sense if from the beginning and before the creation, God so loved us that he was going to come into the world and die and rise again, that it would be a bit of a motif in the cosmos. Death and resurrection. And when Tolkien looked at trees, obviously he loved trees, he loved them for themselves. But when Tolkien tries to understand what storytelling is and how the great myths of Europe have roots together and then branch out into different branches of the tale, he talks about the tree of tales. So I think you should just go around expecting things to mean something and opening your mind and imagination to what they mean, rather than obsessing with what they're made of.